The following panel will be conducted in English because we have a speaker from the main stage. So to facilitate her, we're going to do it in English. So please help me introduce to the stage Dr. Maria Neira from WHO, with World Health Organization. Give her a big round of applause. Bienvenida. Un placer que te tenemos aquí. Gracias. We're not going to do it in Spanish, don't worry. So it's also a big pleasure to introduce the CEO of NN Hellas, Ms. Philippa Michali. Philippa, welcome. Pleasure to have you, and thank you so much. NN Hellas is the sponsor of the panel, Longevity and Good Living. And to conclude this composition, we're going to introduce a photographer. Please help me welcome Constantinos Sofikitis, an excellent photographer, partner to National Geographic and head of Marabou project. Constantinos, very nice to have you here. So let's change it up. I'm going to sit over here. We're going to change up the setting. Yeah, please take a seat.
As you wish.
No problem at all. So yeah, we're going to start. I said this fascinating story, Maria, about how I was in this Greek island, Ikaria. It's one of the blue zones. People live very long there. And there was this 95-year-old grandma that was holding my hand and saying, you have to stay and celebrate with us until the early hours of the day. So certainly not the typical 95-year-old that you would expect. But you have a global picture of longevity and the trends. You look at the data in the entire planet. So I'm wondering, what do the trends say about longevity? Do humans already live longer? And what are the projections for the future? Are we expected to live longer as time goes by?
Yeah, thank you. And I think this is a topic that we are all extremely interested because we are looking at ourselves and how long we are going to live. Clearly, the trends are telling us that we are having a longer life expectancy. If we compare with 200 years ago, life expectancy of a boy or a girl born, it will be around 32 years. Imagine 32 years when you were born, that was all you can expect. And now we can see that clearly the life expectancy is increasing everywhere due to different reasons, but it's increasing everywhere, reaching the average now around 71.4, if I'm not wrong. But careful, because we were around 80. And in the last 3 years, we lost some years of life expectancy due to COVID. So I'm putting that on the table to demonstrate the fragility. If we go back, we can definitely put a lot of people at risk, and that will change our life expectancy. Now, are we keeping increasing the life expectancy? For how long? What are the limits? This is something that we need to discover together, but it will depend very much of what we put as preventative measures and how our health system will respond to our needs. But I suppose we keep that for later.
Yeah, a quick follow-up on this. What do you think is the biggest threat to that right now, from a medical point of view? You know, what's like the biggest thing that we need to fight?
I think we saw a virus putting us on our knees, and in a couple of years wiping some of the incredible advancements we have. Imagine we have now war, or we have violence, or we have malnutrition, or we have the consequences of climate change causing the extreme weather events. That life expectancy gains can really be at risk. And of course, how sustainable are our health systems and how much we are investing in them to protect the health of our people.
No, absolutely. Certainly, it's multiple factors. So, Philippa, I think Greece has a lot of wisdom when it comes to this, because yes, we have a lot of blue zones. A lot of other countries study our diet and what some of the reasons why we live longer. But also, NN Hellas did something very interesting, which is it studied what Greeks' attitudes are towards longevity and their longer lives. You've been conducting this survey. You've actually done it very recently for this year, so I know you have some new findings. So tell us a few words about what do Greeks think about the prospect of living longer, and do you see any changes as you've been tracking them throughout the years?
Yeah, and it's really fascinating to see this. I mean, at insurance, life and health insurance, longevity, its risks and opportunities are at the core of what we do. So we're really interested every time to see on how people think, what they say. So it's their perception. So generally speaking, Greeks feel prepared about living longer, and actually they look forward to it. They want to dream and make plans. Now, at the same time, they are less optimistic on whether they're going to have the financial means to support a life if they are to reach the age of 100. Now, to put some numbers behind those statements, 45% of the people say that I feel prepared, which is less than what it was last year on your question. And 61% say that, or I really look forward to it. Again, there's a decline. So it seems that there's a growing concern on probably optimism and how prepared we see ourselves as years go by. Now, another fascinating insight has to do with successful aging. So how do people see what is success at aging? And they identify 4 pillars. And maybe it's common sense pillars. So it's about physical and cognitive health. It's about mental well-being, financial stability, and purpose. And if you dig deeper and say, okay, for a meaningful and purposeful life, what are the things that really drive that? They talk, the first and foremost, less stress. They talk about relationships with loved ones, which is really important. The excitement of doing new things, which we wouldn't imagine in the past, having the retirees thinking about, starting new things, traveling around the world. This is becoming more and more popular. And of course, having the financial stability and the health to be able to do also all those things. Something which is interesting for Greece is also the family support, the intergenerational family support. So 3 out of 4 people are willing to take care and financially support their relatives. And interestingly enough, they don't expect that much that they will be getting this report back. So there, I think the percentage is around 40%.
40%, interesting.
A last insight, which I would like to share, has to do with what I would call the longevity mindset. So a big majority of people, it's 3 out of 4, they believe that they have ample time to do new plans, to influence their lives. So they do feel that they have the capacity and the capability to influence their lives regardless of the age, which is good. It's positive, it's optimistic, fantastic. But at the same time, someone could read it differently in the sense of, okay, are we probably postponing things? Example, financial planning, because we believe that at any point in our lives, we will be able to deal with things. So long story short, we are prepared, and the more prepared we are, the more we look forward, and vice versa. So there's a great correlation there. And this underscores actually the psychological aspect of longevity perception.
Very interesting insights. I love the point you made about preparedness, and I really love the point you made about purpose, which is also like a philosophical dimension here. We tend to think of what this life would look like in all these metrics. Purpose is kind of hard to quantify, right? But it's really something, if you talk to older people, they seem to be saying, especially when it's there, you really see them thriving, and you really see sort of a different attitude there. And I'm sure, Constantinos, you have a lot of insights here. So you might be wondering, why do we have a photographer in this panel? Constantinos has been doing this fascinating project called the Marabou project. He's been going around the world, but also particularly in Greece's blue zones. You've been documenting a lot of older people, hearing their stories. So I'm curious, do you have some stories by these Greeks in the blue zones that you want to share with us, interesting insights in this conversation? And what do these stories reveal about the factors that contribute to a long and happy life?
Well, first of all, I would like to thank you very much for having me here. It's a great pleasure to be part of this panel and to be able to share my thoughts with this audience. Let me tell you a few things about Marabou project. It's a project that documenting all the inhabited islands on the Aegean. Since 2018, my brother and I documenting, filming and photograph 67 islands. We have gathered more than 400 stories and portraits. And the driving force for this has been my father's stories. He's also a photographer. He used to do the same thing all over Greece back to 80s. And also when I met a writer, his name is Efstathiou, that inspired me and make me really love Greece and be curious to discover it. I cannot share all these stories, of course, but I can share some moments I have been through all these years. I would like to start from Naxos. when I met an elderly couple. When I was talking to the old man, I remember his wife holding his hand very intensely, and while I was talking to her, he was whispering. He was telling some romantic words, and at that moment, the old lady told me that the last 75 years, when I'm cooking, when I wake up, when I go to sleep, all this time, my husband is telling me very nice things, whispering or singing some nice things. So I truly believe that this is the meaning of life.
75 years of love and support, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
And I would like also to share another story from Kalimnos. When we were walking with my brother around 2 hours in order to find a remote separate family that has been living there for forever, I guess. And when we got there, this guy told us, do you see this tree? We were like, yes, we can see it. And then he came and he said, well, this tree for the last 2,000 years has offered whatever it has to offer, like olive oil, sage to hundreds of families. And what we do, we arguing whether it belongs to me or to you or to the next, to other families. So this is exactly how we people greedy are. And I think that was a lesson. It was an intense moment. And another example, another story I would like to share, another moment, is coming from Amorgos. When I met Mr. Marcos, 95 years old, who could hardly speak or talk or walk or listen. And when I asked him what was the happiest time of his life, he said, this very moment is my happiest time of my life. And I was wondering why. And he said, well, basically, I can feel that I'm surrounded by great-grandchildren, my grandchildren, my wife, my children. And when I asked him to take a picture of him, he said, everything I have done in my life, it's because of my wife. So I could never be photographed, but just by myself. I need her by my side. So I believe these moments are important to share. And as far as the longevity is concerned, I would say that a key element is the absence of fear that these people have. They are not exposed very much to the insecurity and to the noise of the digital world. Mm-hmm. They are connected with the nature. And of course, I believe it's quite important that they don't live on a couch all day and watching smartphones or TV. They walk to the mountains, to the sea. Sometimes they even gather their own food. So I believe this is also a key element to longevity.
Yeah, they're physically active, right? But also I think I really like the point about romance, and all of us who have older grandparents or parents. I recently lost my grandma, and a few years ago my grandfather. Their love is like the symbol that I cling on to in terms of like old values of romance, etc. I think has to teach us a lot about how to live and how to conduct our relationships, if you will. But back on the topic of longevity, I want to go back to you, Maria. So you look a lot at how different factors contribute to our health, right? From the position that you're in, environmental factors, some social determinants. And a newer edition, I know WHO has been doing a lot of work on mental health as well, how all these things affect our health, as a consequence, our life expectancy. So what are some of the key determinants that affect a healthy life expectancy, from diet to environmental factors and to our mental health?
I really regret that we don't have an indicator looking at love and this wonderful husband saying that all I achieve in my life is because of my wife. I'm afraid we cannot measure that, but maybe in the next edition we should, because what a wonderful husband. I will love that one day somebody will say that about me, but I doubt. Anyway, so the indicators we are looking at, or what it will determine determine our health is clearly nutrition. I mean, we see parts of the world where, whether because we have obesity or because we have malnutrition, undernutrition, we are putting at risk our life expectancy. And I'm sure you know that obesity or malnutrition in general is growing and creating one of the biggest problems in the public health issues that we are confronting, created by ourselves, because a good nutrition is definitely one of the most important parts. Obviously, sanitation. Believe it or not, but in some parts around the world, we still have millions of people without access to sanitation, clean water, a possibility to wash your hands. And even when you go to the little healthcare facility, we have many healthcare facilities around the world without access to clean water and soap to wash your hands before providing services. Vaccination has advanced a lot, particularly reducing child mortality due to infectious diseases. And then obviously everything related to physical activity. And then again, this is one of the risk factors we are confronting that is very much related to obesity, sedentary lifestyle, but somehow forced sedentary lifestyle, because if you live on a city with a lot of traffic density and you cannot walk because the king of the city is a car, not a human being, then you will have a very sedentary lifestyle. That will help as well obesity, and then you will have all of those chronic diseases that are now challenging our life expectancy. Mental health, I think you all mentioned it very well. You know, the importance of love, the importance of a purpose, the importance of being part of a society, a family, a group, a community. And this isolation is probably one of the most risky factors that you see the increase on the suicide rate as well due to the mental health problems, the consumption of drugs that are, supposed to deal with anxiety, stress, or depression. I think we need to revisit a little bit our lifestyle. Where do we live? How much we connect with nature, which is yet another risk factor. This morning we were talking about air pollution. I mean, air pollution is affecting our health, all our body, but as well our brain. So we are probably becoming less intelligent, and this is why we are not taking the right decisions and spoiling what we have. But many factors that will determine. Just one thing on the OECD countries. You know who is leading the increase on the life expectancy? Spain.
Oh, you beat us. I thought we were going to be high.
I'm sorry. And Japan and Switzerland on the increase. Doesn't mean that you are not the first ones on another. And it's very much related to this social cohesion, the family surrounding you, and still maintaining some minimum family and community caring for each other. Yeah, that is terribly important.
One thing I find very interesting, just a comment based on the two things you said, is, technology is supposed to assist us, right? Is what it's been doing. But I'm wondering if it really assists us to the point of sedation, whether it ends up affecting our long living, our quality of life. And we know how important it is for old people to stay active. You said it as well. I'm wondering whether all of these tools, yes, they're meant to assist us, but are they also eating away our life from the inside because they're disincentivizing people to live? It's an interesting question. I'm wondering there would be more research there. But Philippa, I want to go back to some of the concerns that Greeks might have about long living, because a big part of it is also about planning ahead. A big part of it is also financial. I mean, I started thinking about it. Yeah, it's exciting to live until 100 years, but I need to think about savings or how to get there or what this would mean. So I'm wondering what your surveys show about these anxieties that Greeks may have and how we can best plan ahead for these longer lives that we may be living.
Yeah, I'll start by saying that, us Greeks, we need to admit that planning is not our core ability. Okay, it's not our thing. So no surprises there coming also from the survey. So if we look at the financial well-being, we score the lowest of all 11 countries that participate in this survey. And what does it practically mean is that there is no financial resilience. So if something was to happen, the savings that we have to help us get through some months, well, actually, for a majority of 65% of the people, it's less than 3 months. And 35%, zero. So it's really shocking to see those numbers there. And if an unexpected event, an illness that might come, just 15%, 15% of the people say that, okay, I would somehow find my way around it. So it's extremely low. And if we look forward on our perceived financial preparedness for retirement, and to zoom in a little bit more in the people older than 45 years old that they have not retired yet, the level of preparedness is almost non-existing. And I would say we cannot expect people to be prepared if they don't really understand what preparedness means. So the numbers are again striking. So 18% say that, okay, I know how much money I would need for a nice retirement. And of course, then the percentages go even lower. So 13% understand, okay, this is what it means for my monthly savings. And only 7% actually do save the money that they need in order for them to have a happy retirement. So this is a really important aspect, and it influences the mental well-being. So we are quite stressed. The levels of anxiety are also very high, and of depression compared to the other countries. But also, if we look at the physical health, we say that we feel fit to go out and around, and we are also looking forward to be fit also when we retire. But at the same time, we are not willing actually to proactively look at health issues, only unless, a problem arises. So we are having, again, a reactive approach to the problem. And similarly, things that are affecting, they come from the physical health, but they are affecting, of course, the mental well-being, have to do with this extreme fatigue that people feel, especially in the big cities, and the fact that, the days and the hours are not enough to cope with everything that they have to do. So it has to do, if we sum, all of this together, you see some commonalities. So it has to do with a lack of proactiveness and a reactiveness approach to things, which especially if you're talking about financial planning, starting early is the key thing. So we need to educate people on the value of being proactive and increase also the financial literacy so they can really link in their minds what is it that they need to do now and what is the value that it will produce. Because to close with a nice, let's say, feeling with this question, people do want to live more and they want to do fascinating things. So it's important to ensure that they are prepared to do so.
Absolutely. Preparedness, planning, very important. And for those of you that have been with us from the start of the day, we started with a panel on financial literacy. We heard how important that is. Yeah. If we're living longer, obviously, it becomes even more important. Constantinos, I want to turn to you. You do this fascinating thing. I'm very jealous. So journalists, we love talking to people, but we don't tend to talk to older people that much. They're not in the news as much. But you get to talk to them and you engage in this sort of dialogue. And then your project, I think, is sort of on its own an intergenerational dialogue, right? With some of these people that live very long. So what do you think are some of the findings from this dialogue, and how important is it to have projects or initiatives where we do go to the elderly and we do discuss with them and sort of interact and exchange ideas and thoughts with them?
Thank you for this question. I would like to mention that these people are not a museum piece or sightseeing or something like that. There are people that they have been through in a very difficult times. I believe that their knowledge, their words sometimes, and their experiences can be very important, can be a lesson of a solidarity, of a pride, of a bravery, of kindness to us. So I do believe it is very important to keep this dialogue, but I believe it's even more important if we give something back. It takes nothing to call one of these people to just to say hello or to say to wish a happy New Year's Eve, and it takes absolutely nothing to print just one photo from our smartphones that we may took during summer to send to these people. It's you cannot imagine the level of joy they get from this. I have a personal example. In Ikaria, where 7 years ago a legendary musician had an accident and left disabled. So since then, every December, when it's his birthday, I either go there to have a wine and to see him, or at least to call him or to send him something. It takes nothing from my time and from my pocket, of course, and it means so many to him. And I believe that the need for communication for these people is more important than anything else. And having said that, I would also like to mention that these people are not a social media content or a self-promotional tool. We need to respect very much.
Absolutely. I think you're very right. You see it in older people when you talk to them or when you give them a moment. It takes almost nothing from us, but they really light up, right? But also you mentioned Ikaria, and I know one of the factors of why Ikarians live very, very long is the community that they have. Right? Community is very important there. It's very supportive. Anyone who's been there, it's the kind of island where you just raise your thumb and immediately a car will stop and take you to hitchhike you. So it's an island where there's a lot of helping each other. And so what is your experience of the role the community plays when it comes to people living longer? Do you have any insights there?
Well, I believe that we know that the communities, they may have some disadvantages like gossips and everything, but they have some great principles like solidarity and mutual care, which I believe is very important. And in Ikaria, again, for example, when someone is ill or when someone hasn't got enough money to feed his animals or even sometimes his family, they all gather, they organize, as we call it, a panegyri, and they, in order to help each other. So this creates a feeling that no one is alone, and I believe it's very important to a community.
If there are any English speakers for you as well, panegyri, the best description I ever heard for it was by Florence Welch from Florence and the Machine, who says it means village rave. So it's basically the villagers getting together and partying. But Philippa, I wonder if you have seen also the issue of community and sort of bringing different generations together, even from like a more company standpoint. How important is that sort of process?
It's very important, and I would say there is a reciprocity also to that, to the people that give. So we are supporting a program with Prolepsis Institute, which is called Friendship at Any Age. And actually there's a hotline, first of all, for any person, any old person that wants just to pick up the phone to hear a voice, to say good morning or how are you. But also it's like matchmaking. So there are volunteers that they have been paired in a sense or matched with an old person, and they have a weekly catch-up call. And also we are having activities. So this year we went to do some pottery, or other year we went to the museum together. And it takes just so little of our time, and it's so valuable to them. And beyond them, also the value that I hear from the people that participate as volunteers and what they also take back, it's humongous. So I can very much relate to what Kostas was saying on the experience that he has from
Lovely. So we have a little bit of time to conclude this discussion. We brought some medical parts in it, some financial parts in it, some of your beautiful photography. We've been seeing some of Constantinos' pictures in the background. In the meantime, I want to end it with some philosophy. So very briefly, I don't think there's a point in living longer if it's not a happy life, right? I mean, we've seen some relatives or friends sometimes live long lives, but maybe the last years, they're not necessarily the happiest for them. So I'm wondering if you could all share very quickly, what do you think are the key ingredients for a long but also happy life? Maria, do you want to start? Let's start with you.
Well, obviously, coming from the medical world, as I'm coming, I need to say that you need a social protection and a good medical care and a health system. But more important than that is the community, the family that is around you, and having the purpose that we were saying before. I'm so happy to report that there are some initiatives now that they are calling it adopting a grandfather or a grandmother, and then you're putting the two communities together. Students that are looking for an apartment, a cheap one, sharing the house with an old person who has an apartment, and then they become as a kind of grandparents for the students, and they create such an incredible linkages. So these type of initiatives, but you need to have a supporting health system as well, and social protection, and a purpose on life to be happy, definitely.
Very important. Philippa, what about you? What do you think are the ingredients for a long and happy life?
Yeah, so the recipe. I guess the must-have ingredients of the recipe are health, physical health, and financial health. But you need some spices for life to be happy. So my spices would be dreaming, loving, and laughing.
Great spices. Yeah. I'll use them in my recipe as well.
For all of us, I'm afraid. Not
absolutely. And Constantinos, you want to close it? For you, what are the ingredients? You've seen a lot of these lives. Some of them are happy lives. What are the ingredients of a long but also happy life?
Well, I don't think that a good life can be measured in years. So I believe it's not about quantity, it's about quality, basically. And I truly believe in order to have a good life, it requires to have a mental good thinking. And in order to have a mental good thinking, I believe we need to free it from our fears and to truly connect with people and with nature with total respect. And I would like to sum up with a quote from Kavadias. And he said that the greatest advantage of a human is to be able to stay a human, which I really believe it's a key element to a beautiful life.
Thank you so much, all three. Fascinating conversation. Please give them a round of applause.